Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, where you can also listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can also get more information and listen to previous shows on our website, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And it's my pleasure now to introduce my first guest, and she is Lori Cozzi. Am I pronouncing it correct, Cozzi?
Cozzi, yes,
Cozzi.
or Cozzi.
Okay, well, what do you prefer?
Cozzi is fine.
Cozzi. And she is the executive director at the Black Mountain Center for the Arts in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this, Lori. So if they're watching, you can wave. Well, that's Lori. Lori has been involved with Black Mountain Center for the Arts since its beginning. And when did it begin, by the way? What year?
2000.
Okay. Oh, okay. Super facility. And she's a local teacher, collaborating with the center, and a community member whose daughter takes dance lessons there. As a board member in 2019, she took on the role of executive director, a position she views as her dream job. And certainly we're doing a great job with it. So it's a perfect match. But let me ask you this, Laura. You grew up as a kid where?
Florida, South Florida,
Okay. And
Delray Beach.
Growing up in South Florida, did you always know you wanted to be an executive director of an art center in North Carolina?
No, absolutely not. It's been an interesting path here. What I did know is I wanted to work with children. And so I worked as an art teacher for many years, and then I taught fourth grade. And then I was the executive director at Art Space Charter School in Swannanoa for 13 years, worked there for 16. And so that's the path of arts and arts education that led me to the Black Mountain Center for the Arts.
And so talk about then how you first found the Black Mountain Center for the Arts.
I was working as a fourth grade teacher in Black Mountain at Black Mountain Elementary, and the Art Center was just getting started. So we collaborated on projects that involved my fourth graders and writing oral histories. So the fourth graders were collecting stories from families, and those were turned into a series of plays here called Way Back When. So that was my first work with the center. Later on, I became involved as a board member, and my daughter took ballet class here, and all that led to me being the director here.
So your daughter has been at the center several times performing?
Well, she takes classes. We don't usually have dance class performances here, but she started her ballet career at the Black Mountain Center for the Arts, and now she dances at Asheville Ballet.
Very nice. And now talk about the Black Mountain Center for the folks who haven't been there. Just first of all, tell where it is and then talk a little bit about it.
Okay, well, we're located on State Street in Black Mountain, which is the main road that comes right through Black Mountain, also known as Highway 70. We have been open for almost going on 23 years now. We opened our doors in 2000. We are in the old City Hall building. So for many years, this was the Black Mountain City Hall, and various City Hall type things happened here in our building. When they built a new City Hall, this building was going to be destroyed, but a group of citizens got together and formed our 501c3. That was in about 1995, and spent several years fundraising and renovating the building, which opened in 2000. So we're in a beautiful historic building right next to the Swannanoa Valley Museum and History Center, right in the middle of downtown.
And one of the great things about going there, which I love, is that it's a great way to spend a day or night, because you won't find that you'll be hungry if you go there, because there's certainly enough restaurants nearby, and which is great. Where I love it, they're all walking distance,
We have great restaurants. We've got the Drippolator right next door. There's wonderful shops. There's all kinds of great things to do in Black Mountain, and we're becoming more and more of an arts center. There are quite a few galleries here, and of course we have a gallery as well, and that we have murals all over town and sculptures. So come to Black Mountain to deep dive into the art scene here.
Now, I also know that your center, in that I've seen now several plays there, but were you always putting on plays, or has that just become more popular lately?
There's a long history of plays. I cannot tell you the first year we did a play, but the first series of plays here were the ones I mentioned earlier called Way Back When, and they were based on oral histories that were collected here in the Valley. But we've been doing plays for a very long time. Our model has changed a little bit over the years. We're now working collaboratively with local producers. So just like we do for our gallery, we put a call out for proposals and we look at what folks want to do and what they want to bring here. And then our selection committee chooses our shows for the next season with the goal of trying to have a variety of shows that will appeal to many different audience members.
And talk about, you said the next season. Now, is that upon us, or are we in the current season now?
We're in the middle of our current season. We have a show opening on December 9th, which is Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the Christmas Goose. We have another show in January, the 39 Steps, and directed by Mike Yao, who I'm sure you've interviewed and are familiar with.
Right.
That show runs in January, and then we have another show to round out the season in May, which is, I'm going to think of it in just a second.
Okay.
I don't have that in my notes right here.
Wouldn't that be a great name for a show? I'm going to think about it. Just
it's called Let Me Down Easy, and it's Ovation Theater Company putting that on.
And that's kind of cool now, and I've heard that from other people, that if somebody wants to put on a show, they would contact you and then they submit a proposal.
Yes, we have a submission process. You can find it on our website, which is blackmountainarts.org. And we have a window for accepting proposals. We're in that window now, and we're accepting them for the next season through February 1st, I believe. And on our website, it's very clear what needs to be submitted as part of that proposal.
And I think I mentioned to you, Lori, I'm just looking up the address as we speak, but please also feel free to publicize your stuff or put me on the mailing list for that entertainment page I maintain on Facebook, because I also then take stuff there and put it on my in my blog. I also get ideas for future shows. I think I mentioned this to you. Feel free, if you want me to help publicize the show, love to have it as a guest. So like I said, I've had Mike Yao as a guest several times. And John Hall. John's your board president, is that correct?
John is our board chair. Yes, John and I worked together for 16 years at Art Space. We started on the first day together there, and he's an awesome human being and a great person to work with. So when I became the director here, I asked him if he would please join our board, and he did, and now he's my boss.
He's also a terrific actor too.
Absolutely.
And, the name is escaping me, but it's such a good time, and I was so surprised. What was the play he starred in too? The play about the birds, and what was the name?
Birds of North America. That was our show last May. It was fabulous.
What a delight, and who would have thought I would like to have seen a play about bird watching? But it was so good. Same thing too. Did you learn anything about bird watching as a result of that show?
I did. That show was really very deep. There was a lot to that show, a lot to unpack. And it was a wonderful production. John's all around. He's a Renaissance man for sure.
Really is. Well, all the people I think come to your place are pretty much, you mentioned Mike Yao is just one of the most also talented guys, awesome guys I know. And then I can't wait. So 39 Steps, it's going to be upcoming?
Yes, it starts in January, opens January 20th.
Okay, that's just a fun show to see if people want to see something a little bit different. Really a fun play. Has that been cast yet?
I think Mike has it already cast. Okay. Yes.
And the cool thing about what you do, Lori, is you not only have shows, but you do lots of other stuff at the center. And talk about some of those things. For example, you have a lot of courses. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we really have something going on in all of the arts here. We have concerts in addition to plays in our beautiful theater. The acoustics in there are lovely. We have a dance studio. So as I mentioned, we have ballet classes and contemporary classes for children, ballet for children and adults. We have a clay studio also behind our building. So we have a full range of different pottery classes and pottery experiences. And then we have a gallery. We rotate our gallery shows almost monthly. We have about 10 shows a year in our gallery. And we have an art classroom as well. So we have painting and drawing classes and other types of arts workshops. We also have regularly, we have comedy shows. We're the Black Mountain home for the reasonably priced babies.
Oh, okay, great.
So I'm sure you worked with Tom Chalmers and Josh Battenhorst and Mundy and Karen, all those folks. They're here just about every other month. They have a show coming up in early January as well.
Do you have a date for that? Do you have a date for that, by the way? Do you show it handy?
I will tell you that date in
Okay.
just a
No, but
second.
just as you're looking for it.
January 7th.
Okay, and I'll just mention to people, if you want a fun night out or something a little bit different, come see Reasonably Priced Babies.
Yeah.
But what's really cool, Lori, it seems you're putting on a little bit of something for everybody. You know, you name it, you guys will be involved in putting it on.
We try. We also have storytelling. We had Donna Marie Todd here yesterday performing Stories of Christmas. We have Connie Reagan Blake and some of her students performing here this coming Saturday. I think that's December 2nd. We have Joe Carroll here teaching improv classes. He'll have another round of those starting in December and then another round in February.
Let me put that down because a friend of mine is interested in the improv course. When does that start?
Improv 2 starts in December. I'm not exactly sure of that date. And then we have Improv 1, 2, and 3 starting another round of classes in the beginning of February.
Do you have to have had to take 2? Do you have to have had 1?
Yeah, Joe would like some experience, but maybe not his 1 class, but some improv experience. And we let him decide where students should go. Okay.
Another very talented guy, and just a fun guy. And boy, do you now all these courses, do you get to see any of them or participate in them, or are you too busy scheduling everything?
I'm pretty busy scheduling, but I do get to see performances, and I participate in some of the classes. I most often find myself in the pottery studio. That's what I like to do. But sometimes I'll be sitting in a show thinking, wow, I'm at work. This is really great.
Can you imagine just even speaking to you, just being able to talk about all the cool stuff you guys do? The one of the show I should just thank you so much for putting on was the one you just did fairly recently. And it's Valentine. What was the first name? Shirley Valentine?
Shirley Valentine.
Wow, was that a treat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a delight. The one person show. Who would have thunk? But that was outstanding, wasn't it? Did you get to see it?
I did more than once. It was great. Yeah, I mean, we have some high quality programming here, and our theater performances, they never disappoint.
Well, just even listening to the names you're mentioning, Chalmers, Carroll, all these other folks, you also bring some pretty top talent, to Black Mountain for that reason. Talk also a little bit about the space, because it's a perfect space for almost any kind of production, with the expectation that you're not going to get thousands of people there. There's going to be a small theater. How many people can you see?
We seat about 80 in our theaters, so it's really very intimate. As I mentioned, the acoustics are really nice in there. Most of our concerts are not amplified. So it's a great place to see a show if you want to see it up close and personal.
I know another show that somebody did at your place. I couldn't believe I liked it as much as I did the one about the dinosaur.
Dead and the Dinosaur. Jeff Hutchins did that show last January. Yeah.
Wow, was that fun? And just, but it had a great cast, and it was a great message, and it's such a delightful show. Who would have thought? To tell you how good it was, Lori, I saw it during a rehearsal, and then I was telling my wife about it. I had to come back to see it again to take her and to pay for it because she wanted to see it. But it was that good, though. And I think that's
We have a lot of talented people in Black Mountain, and not that all of our shows are Black Mountain people, but so Jeff, who wrote Denton, wrote the book and then the script and worked on all the music, and so that was as local as you can get, every aspect of that show.
And I think what's so exciting for Jeff, and I think for the center, first of all, it's a world premiere, right? It was the first time it had ever been done, I think. And also, which is very nice, it took something that had never been done before and showed, I guess, a local person that he could do it, that he could put it on with your help. And it's just, that was really exciting,
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Where do you see the center? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna mention that in addition to all these great performers that we have here, we also bring in a number of very talented artists, and have a great upcoming 23 season of exhibitions that'll be in our gallery.
We'll talk, I should know it. Where is the gallery located?
Upstairs, the 3rd level of our building.
Okay, so the theater is the 2nd level?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I've ever been up to the gallery.
So the theater is on our main level, which is street level, if you come in from Black Mountain. And then if you go downstairs, that's where we have our art classroom and our pottery studio out back. And then upstairs, we have a beautiful dance studio and a wonderful, well-lit, nice gallery.
Oh, I haven't been to the gallery, so I have to go up there. Is gallery always open or just certain times?
The gallery is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. And then we open it when there's a performance here. If we have a show, which is usually always, we will open it before the performance and during intermission. So if you come to a show and you get here 30 minutes early, you'll have time to,
good to know.
See the gallery and grab a good seat.
Okay, no, thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that. And talk a little bit then, Laura, you mentioned the gallery, for example. So if an artist would be interested in being in the gallery, is there a procedure for that?
Yes, we have a call for proposals, which is also outlined on our website. An artist can submit up to 10 pieces and their artist statement and things like that. And just like we do with the theater season, we have a committee made up of board members and community members that goes through the proposals, and we select our shows for the coming year. So we are already planned completely out for 2023. The next round of proposals we'll be accepting will be for shows in 2024, and we'll start collecting those. We'll dig into that a little bit more in the spring.
Yeah, it's incredible. I can't believe how much trouble getting through 22, and you're now into 24. Wow.
Yeah, you had to plan way ahead.
Is that something? Now, the art shows that the gallery exhibits set up to 10 pieces. Do you ever combine artists, or is just one person has the show to himself or herself?
The 10 pieces is just for the submission process. Typically, if somebody has a solo show, they have 20 to 25 pieces, of course, depending on the size. But we do group shows as well. Upcoming, we have a group show in January called Valley Talent, which is from children in our valley here. And then we have a community show in February called Beyond the Binding, which is open to anybody that wants to submit a piece, as long as you've made it out of an old book or some part of an old book. And yeah, we have a series of, actually, we have more group shows in 2023 than we do solo shows. We decided to change it up a little bit. We have a show in April called Golden Renaissance, which is only open to folks 65 and older. So
really? Very cool.
Some of our senior artists in the community.
There's hope for me, right?
Yeah, you should submit a proposal.
Yeah, well, now I have to start doing something, but at least I'm age-wise eligible. Talk also, Lori, about the fact that I guess what drives the success of the center is, in large part, you rely on volunteers. Is that correct?
We do have a number of volunteers. They help us with things like ushering shows, and I'm thinking about what the volunteers will be doing this month, cleaning out the clay studio. And we, of course, have a volunteer board because we're a 501c3. So yeah, we love our volunteers, and we couldn't do what we do without them.
Has somebody become a volunteer or get more involved with the center if they want?
Just to email me. My email is director@blackmountainarts.org, and you can also find me on our website.
Okay, and again, I'll have you go back to the website. That website again was what?
blackmountainarts.org.
Okay. Also, you're on Facebook as well?
Oh, yes, Facebook and Instagram, very regularly. And we have a newsletter that comes out once a week. That's the best way to keep up with what's going on here. And you can sign up for the newsletter on our website, or you can just come in and write your name down on the clipboard in the office if you want to come visit.
Listening to you, it seems to me that if ever there was a kind of like a dream job for somebody, this would be yours. I mean, it's just, if ever there was a job written for somebody, job description, were you the first executive director, or had there been others?
Oh, no. Our founding executive director, Gail Jackson, was here for 20 years. So I'm the second one. And I follow in big footsteps, big shoes to fill. But it is a dream job because all of the arts are present here. And although I have more experience in the visual arts and I taught visual art, I love dance and music and the shows we have here. So that part of it does make it quite fun to be here. It's also a great place to interact with the people in our community. Black Mountain is a wonderful town. We have great people here. So that part is really fun. And I love writing grants and things like that. And that's an important part of the job as well.
And talk about that part of the process, because I don't think people realize that, not only for centers, but for shows specifically as well, that you can't just rely on, I guess, say, even a show, ticket sales are not going to be able to keep the center going.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that, because it's so important and people don't realize that, how important it is for people to donate or get involved if they want to support the center. How do they go about doing that?
Absolutely. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is our membership drive. And we are in the thick of that right now. Without member contributions, we wouldn't be here. We couldn't continue to pay electricity and staff. So I do encourage anybody who's interested to become a member. And there's many different levels that you can join at. That information again is on our website. We have a new membership level this year for artists, and if a person indicates that they're an artist, then we will put their information on our website, their links to their webpage and Facebook and things like that. So our membership drive is a very big important part of our fundraising. We also have a few fundraisers a year, most notably Art in Bloom. That's our big one that's happening in June next year. That's where we bring together art and floral designers. They create floral designs based on different pieces of art. And we also have garden tours as part of that. So the fundraising, membership drive, fundraisers, and then grants are a big part of helping us really do new projects. Grants often are very specific. And so we get great support from the Asheville Art Council, the state North Carolina Art Council, different programs like that.
And so talk about this, and I can't believe I'm volunteering on this, but if I want to become involved then, and so do I become involved as a member, or do I make a straight donation? What's kind of the difference?
There really isn't a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one and the same. Some people might call it an annual drive. Our membership drive, yeah, if you make a donation, we're gonna call you a member. You are a member.
Okay, well, I haven't been, so you're going to get me as a member.
Awesome.
See, just you're so persuasive on the show. When does the drive start take place, or is it ongoing all the time?
It's ongoing all the time, but we really kick it off each year in the fall. So we're kind of right in the middle of our big push right now. You know, tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, where folks all over the world are encouraged to give to nonprofits. So that would be a great day. But we bring members in and we accept donations at any time.
Well, we'll talk about that, because again, I've heard about it, but I don't know that much about it. So Giving Tuesday, and then sometimes the donation is matched by some sources, or does that happen?
There are some programs for matching. I don't know that we're up for a match this year, but it's just an awareness campaign. It's always, I think, the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving, and it's just a shout out to support your nonprofits.
By the way, keep in mind, and you might want to research at some point in time, believe it or not, Facebook has had donations, when you donate on a certain day, they double it. So, and a friend of mine has gotten money from Facebook on that basis, so something to look at. But you're saying you'll take me as a member anytime?
Anytime.
But
Yeah.
what was it? What's the Groucho Marx line or something that if you took me as a member, they don't want they don't want to belong to that organization, if I'm a member.
No,
So
no.
that's good to know. Talk a little bit about some, I guess, upcoming things that are happening that over the next couple of months specifically.
Okay. Well, we're pretty excited this week to open our holiday market, which is all local artists and potters. Thursday morning or Thursday at noon that opens, and our theater will be filled with local art. And that happens on Thursday and Friday. On the first Friday of December in Black Mountain, we have an event called Holly Jolly, and all the shops are open late, and there's music and performances, and it's a great time. So come on down to Black Mountain on Friday and come to the Black Mountain Center for the Arts to see our artist market. Also coming up, I mentioned we have Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the Christmas Goose. That's our Christmas show this year.
Who's directing that again?
Noah Stout, I think is his last name. He's kind of new to us.
Great.
Yeah. And then we'll take a little break. But coming back in January, early January, as I mentioned, we have Reasonably Priced Babies. That's on January 7th. On January 8th, we have the Mountain Harp Society for a beautiful harp performance. I mentioned the school show that opens in January. That opens on January 13th. And then the 39 Steps opens on January 20th. We also always are adding classes. We have, as I mentioned, new improv classes coming up. We have ongoing enrollment in our pottery classes here, ongoing enrollment in dance. And something I didn't mention were some of the music programs we have here. We have private piano, guitar, ukulele, harp, voice. We have some fabulous teachers offering all those private lessons. We're also the Buncombe County home to the Junior Appalachian Musicians Program, which is called JAM. And we have about 35 kids that come here every Wednesday for that program, which is taught by local traditional musicians.
How do you keep track of all this stuff?
A lot. I don't know, lots of calendars.
I mean, do you have like one master calendar, or I'm just
I do. You know what? I'm kind of old fashioned. I use Google Calendars, but I also still like things on my paper calendar.
Well, it's funny you say that, Lori. Same thing too. I used to use day timers for 100 years, and my wife finally got me into using Google Calendar. And it's really cool, because you see everything at once, and you can change things very easily. But it took me a while to make that change, so you still have both. Where
I'm still doing both. I'm not quite there yet. I'm looking
at the wall. You don't have a big calendar with everything on it?
That's in the main office.
Oh, is it? There is one too.
Yeah, this is my office. Yeah.
Okay. Right, Lori, I'd like to thank you for being my, I had one final question I had to ask you. You were talking before about your daughter. So your daughter now had been a dancer. She took courses there. She's now studying dance, or? She's
a high school student, but she dances at the Asheville Ballet, and she'll be in the Nutcracker in a couple weeks.
Has she ever performed at your center?
No, because we don't really have a good space for dance performances. Gotcha. Our stage is rather small. Our dancers perform in the community a lot. They'll be performing at Holly Jolly on Friday night. They'll be in the Black Mountain Christmas Parade on Saturday. So we take our dancers off site often.
Okay, and your daughter's in those performances, some of them?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, and so once again, Lori, if folks want to get in touch with you or find out more about the center, some of the amazing stuff you do, best bet is through what? The website again is?
Our website is a great place to start. That's blackmountainarts.org. We also have a very strong presence on Facebook and Instagram. And also our doors are open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5, come in, I'll give you a tour, can tell you all kinds of interesting things about what the rooms are now and what they used to be, like our art classroom that used to be the jail, things like that.
Was it really? Okay, very cool.
Yes.
Anyway, this is just phenomenal, Laura. I want to thank you for being my guest on this edition of the Blaine's World podcast. Also for doing all the really cool stuff you do in the centers. Just kind of blows me away as I learn more about it. And I'm sure you will see me many times in the future. And you might even get me as a member. So thank you
All
very
right.
much. Okay.
Thank you.
Lori, good speaking
Appreciate
to you.
it.
Okay. Speak to you
Okay.
soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As Lori works her way out of the studio, I'll hopefully get my next guest in. And Cora Lee, if you're listening, or if Cora Lee is somewhere there, we'll kind of look for her. If not, I'll pause in just a second. But there she is. Okay. Cora Lee, stay with me a second. I'll just mention people that are watching or listening to the Blaine's World podcast. We're heard at least, or seen at least a couple times a week. And I should mention that Blaine's World Missions, what we do is provide information about artists, small business, community leaders, nonprofits to share their voice each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And you can listen, as we said before, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And for more information and to listen to previous shows, click on the website www.blainesworld.net. My next guest is Cora Lee Palma, who's, among other things, an author. Before you go any further, Cora Lee, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So if you're watching this, you want to wave to everybody, say hello to everybody. That's Cora Lee. Okay. And Cora Lee, before I even give you background, I'm trying to figure out, how do we know each other? How do we meet?
Well, it's kind of ironic. I lived in Palm Beach County in Boynton Beach.
Okay.
15, 20 years ago. And I went to some type of an affair, and I met a gal named Carol, and I can't think of her last name right now. And at that time, that was when I first got on Facebook.
Right.
So she became one of my first friends on Facebook, and she recommended you as a friend.
Okay.
So we've been Facebook friends for so many years, but I never really knew who you were, or, what you did or anything. And October 1st was my birthday, and you popped up wishing me a happy birthday. And I thought, oh, where's he been?
Well, actually, I probably popped up. What I try to pop up the day before. So I said, when you have a happy birthday on the next day. So that's funny. And then, then I saw, I was so impressed that you had all this writing and all this other stuff you were doing. That's right. And I asked you to come on board.
Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, I should mention that Cora Lee is a writer, but she's also a genealogist, artist, astrologer, and world traveler. Cora Lee was born in the Mohawk Valley area of New York State. She now resides in Conway, South Carolina, not too far from me, and where she composes her love of history and the written word into publication. And Cora Lee, the question is, you grew up as a child where?
In a little village of roughly 2,000 residents, and the village is called St. Johnsville, New York. It's in the Mohawk Valley, about 60 miles west of Albany, 30 miles east of Utica, New York.
And when you were a child growing up there, did you always know you wanted to be this writer and doing not only writing, doing 27 other things?
I always loved reading. I don't know if I did much writing in my real young age, not until I got into high school. But I always loved to read, and I would hide under the covers at night when I was supposed to be sleeping with a book and
I did that too.
and a flashlight. So my mother, for Christmas one year, bought me a bookcase, a beautiful bookcase that I had for many, many years. And it was filled with the Bobbsey twins books, the complete set of them. And I just thought I was so blessed. But then I kind of outgrew them after I read a few books. I didn't finish completing the reading
really?
of all of them. I had advanced too much in my reading, I guess, that they were a little bit too simple for me or something. then when I got into high school, I was a very good student. In fact, I was salutatorian of my class. And I loved to write book reports and other things. I worked on the school newspaper and yearbook. Then when I graduated, I had gone to college in Albany to be a mathematics teacher. And well, that didn't last very long. I decided that really wasn't my cup of tea, even though I had been, excelled in the subject in high school. So then I'm kind of an all around person. I have many, many interests. And as I said earlier to you, I wear many hats. And I mentioned that in my memoir that I wrote a couple of years ago. So, but right now I'm focused on writing, first researching, which is quite intensive, researching on ancestry with family trees. It began with my setting up my own family tree. And then I don't recall exactly how I came up with the idea. I started writing the stories of other people who came to St. Johnsville and settled there from Italy, where my maternal grandparents came from. Well, that just kind of expanded, and I knew just about everyone. This was my first book.
Let me see, wait.
Okay. Web of Italian Intrigue.
Legacy, okay. That was the very first book you wrote?
A Legacy of St. Johnsville Immigrants. And these are my grandparents, and my mom is the baby on the cover.
Was that the first book you wrote?
You can see how thick the book is. It's the stories of over 100 or more Italian immigrants who settled in my little village. And this has been my bestseller. I had an amazing book event back in my hometown at the library right after I published the book. And they were literally lined up out the door. And I came home with over $2,000 in my pocket.
Well,
besides the checks.
Right. That was the very first book you wrote?
It wasn't the very first book I ever wrote. I had written a book when I still lived in Florida. It was about planning weddings with the sun signs. That at the time I didn't know about publishing with Amazon or anything like that. And I did send it out to different editors, and they said, oh, there's no interest in that type of book. So I pretty much had to promote it and sell it on my own, which I did at some book fairs and like that. But then when I moved to South Carolina, and I was into working with genealogy, then I started, writing the stories, and I would post them on Facebook. And one of my friends back in St. Johnsville said, "You're the talk of the town. Everybody loves reading the stories you're posting." So then I thought, I should put this all into a book, which I did. So that was the beginning of my new career that took off at 80 years old.
We'll talk about so you wrote that book before or after the one you showed about the Italian?
I'm sorry?
You wrote that before or after the one you showed us? The one you just talked about?
This book, Web of Italian Intrigue, is the first
Right.
ancestral history book that I've written. Are you talking about my astrological book?
No, then you started talking about all the friends were interested in your stories. Was that the one?
Oh, yes, that was with the Web of Italian Intrigue.
Okay, now,
Yes.
did they want, now, the reason that's probably so popular, I imagine you mentioned a lot of their families in this book, the
Yeah,
families
right.
mentioned. Yeah, and did they
Right.
learn,
And
did they learn about the families that they didn't know about?
a lot of them didn't even know about some of the information I put in the book about their families. I've I knew more and know more about their families than most of them do. So that book was the start of another book. I don't have that one in front of me,
Sure.
called Web of Mayanzani Intrigue, which is Mayenza, Italy. And that's where my grandmother came from. And back in 2013, before I even started this Web of Italian Intrigue, I had gone to Italy on an art prayer retreat. So I incorporated a trip to Mayenza to check out where my grandmother had lived. And so I went to the village office there and found her birth time and birth date, which she never knew. And then before I left the office, this young woman showed up and she walked me up to the home where my grandmother was born and lived until she came to St. Johnsville. So I was very intrigued about that village. It's a little medieval village up in the hills, which most of the towns in Italy are. So then I decided to write a book about my adventure there, and it was an adventure. I took a lot of photos. I It was interesting how that book came about. I had a request from someone from Italy on Facebook, and I thought, oh, where's this coming from? And so when I saw that he was from Mayanza, I thought, oh, okay. So I accepted him as a friend. And he introduced me to another friend from Mayanza. And so I was corresponding on Facebook on their Italian page with all of these people from Mayanza. And I discovered more cousins, cugini, they call them, that I had. Oh, I forgot to mention, I had met a cousin uh, whose grandmother was my grandmother's sister with my visit to my aunt. I had met her there. And so anyway, everyone there was so helpful, telling me about this family, that family. And
You speak
in fact,
Italian?
one of the gentlemen said to me, "We're all related," and I've come to believe that after all my research and going, that takes me way back on the trees. I can see where we are related.
Let me,
Um,
let me ask you this, Cora Lee. Do you
yes,
speak Italian?
I'm sorry.
Do you speak Italian?
No, very little, very, very little. I wish I had learned. When I was a young girl, my mother and her sisters, and they would all speak Italian and wouldn't teach me or my cousins because they didn't want us to know what we were talking about.
Do you prefer the researching of the work you do or the writing?
Researching is what?
Do you prefer researching something, a subject, or to write about it?
I can't say I prefer either one. I love doing the research and I love doing the writing. In fact, if I was much younger, I would offer my services to others, to put books together for them. I did a small book for my brother's daughter about her mother's family. She asked if I could put a book together about that, and I did all the research and writing and that, and helped her get it published. It's a personal book. It's not one that's available to the public. But I did do that, and I enjoyed, working on that. So then right now, I'm working on, okay, here we are.
And title of it?
From the boot of Italy to the foothills of the Adirondacks, La Familia Terranova. Now, this book, it's hopefully I will have it in print by the end of December. I keep finding more information to add to it. This book is all about the Terranova family that settled in my little village of St. Johnsville, plus the surrounding towns of Fort Plain and Canajoharie. And through this, I discovered, well, my husband's mother was a Terranova. And so my daughter and son, have Terranovas in their DNA. And I met a girl who purchased my Web of Italian book right after I had published it. I didn't know her at all. She didn't know me. And I guess she saw it on Facebook and on Amazon and thought it was intriguing. Maybe on Facebook. She may have seen when I was posting it on Amazon or Facebook. And so then she sent me a message telling me how much she liked the book. Well, come to find out, she is a DNA match to my children through the Terranovas. Her grandmother was a Terranova. And then she and I have a DNA match also, but it has to be through, I'm thinking my grandfather, who was from Italy, and her father's family. So, but it's a mystery we're still trying to solve. And so anyway, this hopefully will be coming out the end of December.
Well,
I'm down to the nitty gritty editing.
well, just comment and then a question on the editing part. What I love about this book, you already have the cover for it. You showed the cover, so we have the
Well,
cover.
this is what the cover will look like
It looks
without
great.
coming soon. I
Exactly.
made a copy of it, to post on Facebook, and so
Well,
I design all my own covers, and I format all my own books. I do have a friend in Florida, in Lake Worth, Florida, and I think I mentioned his name to Cappy, who does this part-time for a living, and I send everything to him, and then he follows through with Amazon to get it in print for me. So I don't have to deal with that part. Of course, I have to pay him, for it.
well, Cora Lee, talk a little bit about the process too. So when you're writing a book, you're finishing this one. Are you the kind of person, do you get up every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and write for 3 hours, or are you disciplined that
No,
way?
I don't have any scheduled time that I write. I do have kind of a schedule, that I do every day, but I try to write every day and work on my book every day. Some days I don't. I live alone, so, I have no one to take care of. And with the pandemic, I really got involved with my research and writing because I was, confined to my home for so long. So that was a plus for me, even though it wasn't that much fun.
So when you write, how long do you write for any given day? A couple
Um,
hours?
Yeah, I probably write at least 3 hours a day. Well, it's not just total writing; it's research writing, back and forth. I might be working on one particular family at a time or one person. So then I do I do quite a bit of research for each family or person in that family. Some of the family members are more interesting than others. And I also contact different people on Facebook or people that I do know personally who are members of certain families. I'll contact them and ask if they might have any information or old photos. I love old wedding photos that I can use in the books. And all of my books have a lot of photos in them.
Yeah. How long
I
does,
also, I took a brief break a couple years ago during the pandemic when it first started, and I wrote this book, Angels from the Sky.
right,
And this is quite interesting. My second husband, who I lived with in Florida, received a letter one day from a gentleman, French farmer from Normandy, France. And he said to my husband that he and his family were so pleased that his brother, my husband's brother, was killed in the Normandy invasion, that without them coming there, the Americans, and coming and liberating France and Normandy, he would not be here today.
sure.
And he told about how his father and mother, they were about 12 years old, and they were in their teens at the time of World War II. And he told of how when they had him, they would always talk about the angels from the skies, the paratroopers who came down and, helped liberate them. And it's quite a fascinating story. He felt that he was born with this mission, and he came to America and met with, I think, 3 or 4 of the families. 3 of them, I think, he spoke directly to the paratrooper who had survived, and he contacted several of the families, and there were news articles in the paper. There was one actually from South Carolina. I don't have his name in front of me right now. And he went to Hawaii to meet with one of the paratroopers. And it's a fascinating story. And I felt it should be told. So I wrote this book about him and his experience with contacting and searching out all of these angels from the sky.
Great title, Cora Lee. Let me ask you this. Overall, how many books have you written?
In this series of books, in the past 5 years, I've written 12.
Wow.
La Familia Terranova is the 12th book that I'm working on.
Will there be others coming out after that?
After that one, I'm not sure. I'm thinking of that I need to take a little break and start promoting my books and get some of my money back, and that takes time, promoting them. But I'm sure something the universe will send me some idea.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud that you earlier you mentioned a great idea for a book. I don't know if you caught it, but the book I next want you to see is the story about the Bobbsey twins and the genealogy of the Bobbsey twins.
The Bobbsey twins.
Right. And there'd be an interest in that. I'm telling you how they grew as a family. And that would give you the impetus, Cora Lee, you should write it down, to finish the series. So even though you never finished it way back when, you still could finish the series. Right. And then you could write an additional one. What happened to the Bobbsey twins now, 50, 60 years later? What do you think?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I'll think about it. I'll do a lot of research on that one, I'm sure.
Are the Bobbsey twins still around?
I don't know if anybody even knows who the Bobbsey twins were.
I remember too. When I was a kid, it was the Hardy Boys. Remember the Hardy Boys?
Yeah, they were like the Hardy Boys, right. The Bobbsey twins. I don't even remember if the Bobbsey twins were male and female or just girls.
Yeah, I don't know either, but just
when I get off here, I'm going to be checking them out.
You research about a whole new idea, your next series.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that, Cora Lee. So you finished this current one, and that I didn't realize 12 books is pretty impressive. Down the
Uh-huh.
road, do you have any plans as to either future writing or other stuff you want to get into?
No, I think I'll stick to my writing. As I told you earlier, I've worn many hats, but I think I'll focus on this with the research. I really enjoy it. What I would like to do is work more on my DNA matches, and find out, you know, exactly how I'm related to. I know some of the matches I have, but I don't know exactly how we're related, you know, through their, which of their grandparents or mine. So I would like to work on that. I also have two other books I'm kind of excited about that. I joined an authors group when I moved to Myrtle Beach, and one of the gals in the group suggested I might try fiction. I do mostly nonfiction. So I wrote this book called Desiree. And the photo is actually a window that was in a hotel that I stayed in Florence. When I went to the art prayer retreat, my plane was delayed by 3 hours. And so by the time I got to Florence to meet the bus that was supposed to pick us up, I missed the bus and I had to find a place to stay overnight. And I stayed in this hotel called the Desiree. And I go, oh, that's an interesting name. So when I got there, the old hotels in Italy, I don't know if they're like that in any of the other countries, but they're like stacked. They're, you know, they share walls with other buildings, and they'll be in the middle of two buildings and on like 4 or 5 floors. So when I got to this hotel, it was just, I love the word intriguing, so intriguing to me. The decor and the ambiance of the whole hotel. And my mind started spinning, thinking all these things. And I viewed it that this hotel had at one time been a bordello.
Okay.
So it's a clean book, but this is what I tell the story of a young woman who lost her way and decided she spent her inheritance that her grandmother left her. She came from a rich family, the Michelangelo family, and her grandmother left her quite an inheritance, and she spent it all on developing this bordello. So I tell the story of that and her tragic life. And it worked out well. I wrote 2 more novellas that were fiction, and one I used my grandfather, Italian grandfather, as a protagonist. And then I wrote a sequel to that about his daughter. And the first book took place in a little village in New York State. And the other book takes place in Chicano, Italy, where my grandfather's family actually came from, the Sindicis. So
Corley, let me ask you this question, because I'm just amazed by all these stories you have. How do you get the ideas for the stories?
I don't know. They just come. I think sometimes I find I get a lot of ideas when I go to rest my eyes and my feet. I lay on the couch. I kind of meditate, and they'll come to me. Or sometimes in the middle of the night, ideas will come to me. I wake up in the middle of the night and I have all this stuff going through my mind.
Give me advice when that happens. When it does, when you wake up in the middle of the night, do you then write it down or do you jot the idea down?
I don't write it down, and I should, because then I don't sleep the rest of the
Right,
night.
exactly. Well, no, my problem with Cora Lee, when I get up like that, the worst is I'll write something down and then I can't read my handwriting,
Yeah,
so,
right.
but so sometimes it comes back to you or you just remember the
Well,
idea?
I remember it the next day. I do keep a little notepad and pen on my nightstand, but I think I've used it once. But yeah, sometimes when I'm working on a book and I'm stuck on something, I call it meditate on it. I'd have to get away from it, go rest my eyes and my legs from sitting, and then I come back with a fresh outlook on it. I have one more book I'd like to show you if I can.
Please, yeah,
I also write poetry,
okay,
and I haven't written much lately, but when I lived in Florida, I belonged to the Poets of the Palm Beaches, and I wrote a lot of poetry at that time. So I recently published this book called Dance Me to the End of Love. Lyrical poetry to soothe the soul. And it features a lot of the poems. There's 3 sections to it. The first section is about dancing and music. The second section is about roses, which was my mom's name. And the third section is about Italians in Italy and my favorite monument, David, Michelangelo's David. And it also features a lot of my artwork in here. The beginning of the book, I do a lot of collage, and then I bring in a lot of the artwork I've done through the years as a China painter, and I paint in watercolors. And so I've combined a lot of my talents that I've been blessed with.
Cora Lee, if folks want to get either that book or any of the other books you mentioned, what's the best way to find out information about your books?
You'll find the books on Amazon.com. Are you there?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm here. Yeah,
wait a minute.
I'm
My
here.
computer shut off.
Okay, keep talking. I can see you fine. You're doing fine.
Okay.
So you're saying they can find
Okay.
your books on Amazon.com? Yeah.
Yes, and I also, promote them on Facebook. I have my Facebook page under Cora Lee Palma Hayden. I have 2 or 3 other pages, one for the Italians, one for my Irish side, and I'm currently my grandson is working on a website for me.
Very nice. But right
So
now,
I'll
the best bet is Cora Lee Palma, Palma.
Palma.
At
P as in
Facebook.
Paul,
Right.
Alma.
And so folks want to track you down, best bet is to find you on Facebook.
Yes, I do have an email address.
If you care to share it.
I can. I think I sent it to you. If you
Well, I
go
have,
and
but
check
just
it out.
for the show, if you want to just mention it on the show.
Oh, okay. CL Palma 35 at gmail.com.
Okay. I always get a kick out of that, Cora Lee. I'm glad you mentioned that because that makes you different than CL Palmer 36 and 34. We don't want to get them confused. So if they want to reach you, they have to go to the 35
Well,
one.
35 is the year I was born.
Oh, okay. No, I always get a kick out of that, what makes it different. Anyway, Cora Lee Palmer, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this podcast edition of Blaine's World. I'd also like to thank my first guest, and she was Lori. Trying to get name. Lori.
I wrote her name, Lori Cozzi.
Cozzi,
I wrote her
right.
name down.
And lastly, I'd like to thank my producer. There she is. She's saying goodbye to us. Hey, Lori. And I'd like to also
Bye, Lori.
thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. Hope to see you all sometime soon on another podcast or Facebook, or I'll see you, Lori, at the center. And thanks, guys, for being with me. I'm just going to sign off now, but you can still stay on and we can chat just a little bit at the very end. So
okay, thank you for having me, Blaine.
My pleasure, Lori. Thanks for staying around. You didn't have to, but thank you.
Thank
And
you,
I'll say
Blaine.
goodbye. I'll say goodbye to you.